Hi, I'm an Australian guy living here in Minsk, Belarus, and I'm right in the centre today, Independence Avenue, and I want to talk politics, man, because it's something I don't describe or discuss in detail on the channel for fairly obvious reasons. But today I will discuss the idea of right-wing and left-wing politics from the West and how Belarus fits inside of that in reality, not in political propaganda land. So I'll preface this by saying that the different kinds of foreigners that come to Belarus have different motivations. One of the motivations is being what they would consider to be a right-wing or conservative person in terms of values. Let me turn you around. You can watch where we're going instead of looking at my beautiful head. So you get this to different extent. Guys that might lean a bit that way like me, I'm just happy to laugh at them even, say, oh yeah, stuff can be fucked sometimes. You got other guys, there's a whole spectrum all the way down to really quite extreme stuff, right? So you kind of can't hide from it when you're here at the end of the day. I mean, if you can hang out with expats from time to time, these conversations are going to be had, right? And as I say, there's a real spectrum, kind of light to heavy. And there's a lot of like apolitical types as well. But you can't be apolitical, because even if you're quote unquote neutral, you're still kind of more globalist left, because that's who tends to kind of control most of the media and control the algorithms, more so on social media too. So you kind of can't get away from this stuff. But I always, well, I don't always, but I often get bemused as to why hard right-wing guys think that Belarus is suitable for them. It makes no sense at all. So let me talk you through it. Obviously, the government here is good at saying things about, certain recent political activities. We'll call them woke. Everyone uses this term woke. So I'll just use woke as a general word for this. Claims to be kind of anti-woke, pro-family, anti-gay flag, this kind of stuff. So, self-diagnosed conservatives from the West think, this is good, this must be where traditional Europe is. Traditional Europe, like that's their idea, that's their assumption, and everything else they do here, and everything else they see here, they try and fit into that viewpoint, right? Because of course as humans we're looking to always see consistency. Now, I don't think this is particularly accurate. Now I would say, if we break down, if you just look at feminism for example, right? So look at the first couple of ways of feminism up until kind of the 70s and 80s. And it was definitely programmed in here more heavily than it was in the West, right? So here, Christianity was just bombed. Das Vidania Christianity. Here's a nice photo shoot for you. No shortage. They could be there. We'll come back in half an hour, and I think they'll still be there. So yeah, Christianity was just hit with a wrecking ball. And of course we had the Bolshevik era, where everyone was just told to be quote unquote liberal. There was a propaganda saying, fuck it, comrade. Just trying to encourage people to be promiscuous. And anyway, things really fell apart. They did in what the West's done in 100 years, they did in fucking 2 weeks during that period. This is the early 20th century. And things really fell apart quickly. That's kind of when Stalin came in. I'm accelerating it a little bit, just making it a bit more concise for the video. But he came in preaching, I guess, Christianity 2.0 in a sense. It avoided all of the, love thy husband, but it did bring back roles. Right? So if you are a man or a woman, then you do this. But nothing of the kind of bonding stuff. Broadly speaking. So what you had during that time was Russia leading the way in terms of divorce, in terms of, especially in the 60s and 70s, in terms of declining fertility rate. Russia was really up there with the leaders such as Sweden and the Anglosphere as well, right? So this is kind of important to understand. And of course, during the Soviet time, there was no competition for ideology, right? Whereas in the West, there was still some resistance to these kind of lobby groups, left-wing lobby groups trying to reprogram society according to their ideologies. So we only got a bit of it in the West, whereas here they're entirely reprogrammed. So they have the first couple of waves of feminism. It's enshrined in them. It's who they are. It's not who they try to be. It's not who they're trying to impress people by being. It's who they are. It's in their DNA in this part of the world. Also, Belarus is still pretty communist. Yeah, it's still pretty communist. The government controls most big industry, has a say in anything else. Things are essentially planned to a large extent still. And everyone kind of earns a similar salary. It still is communist, yeah. It's not communist, but it's a good taster. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, so yeah, they've gone along with Russia and tried to differentiate themselves from the West by not having the LGBT flags. They haven't gone kind of hyper crazy with a lot of the radical stuff that's happening in the West in the last 10 years. For example, all the kind of domestic violence laws that assume men's guilt and all this kind of really radical stuff that scares the shit out of me and was a big influence on me not being there. I'm not there because drag queens read kids' storybooks, like this kind of culture war topic. I'm there because I know what the laws are and I know that they're going to potentially be used against me because of my gender. So that's kind of one of the reasons I believe in some level of equality, which increasingly you can't get in the face of the law if you're a male in the West, just looking objectively at the laws and how they're enforced. So that's kind of how it is. So here they don't have that either. So you've kind of got a more left-wing communist base, the economy, and women's attitudes towards men, work and family themselves. But then you've got some kind of line in the sand and trying to differentiate themselves from the last few waves, especially the last 10 years. Seems to be around just kind of pre-Trump's reign in the US, at least his first reign. Maybe there'll be a second one, depending when I release this video, that we may have had the election results already for 2024. As it stands, around kind of 13, 14, 15, 16, there seemed to be an acceleration of whatever this kind of social engineering agenda is. There seemed to be a real put the foot down on that one, right? Put the foot down and accelerate on that one. But here they're kind of resisting it to some extent. So I'm not sure if that makes Belarus more or less right-wing or left-wing than, say, America. I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. It's hard to... It's like apples and oranges. You know what I mean? Plus a lot of this... what's called woke. I kind of don't like this word. I don't know. It just sounds fucking weird. But anyway, this woke stuff, the term people use, it's still in here. You know what I mean? They're still teaching it in universities. They teach it at my university. You should see some of the propaganda that some of the girls get pumped full with here. It's bizarre. Really bizarre stuff. Even a teacher from my university the other day told me she's a proud Marxist. And I'm like, well, okay, you're in the right country. And she's like, oh no, I hate our government. I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you? You're in a Marxist country. Do you even know what it means, you fucking retard? Like, really? It's just so cringy when people are so sheltered and brainwashed that I can't even kind of comprehend what's not in a textbook. It is difficult to take real life examples and apply them, contrast them to theory, so it seems. So yeah, the point of this video is this kind of fantasy of being some traditionalist, right-wing, blah, 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 family culture, and it just doesn't line up from a first and second wave feminist point of view. And I've met someone recently who was born in Belarus but moved to a Western country at a fairly young age and is now kind of mixing between here and there. And this person's very cagey about their politics. See, I'm cagey about their gender. I'm just avoiding using he or she. Very cagey. And it's like, this is interesting because this person's quite young. And I'm just like, this is interesting because this person's giving indicators of being very political, but just hiding it. Yeah, just hiding it. Which people don't do here. Here you're kind of free to spout whatever you want. They do have on some level freedom of speech here. Like, no one really cares. People will discuss and but no one actually really cares that much. So in this context, in the context of discussing these postmodern lobby group agendas, you're free to do it here, either way. You might make an enemy and have an argument, but nothing will happen to you. You won't go to jail, or you won't lose your job, or anything like this. So things like this are discussed here, and you can see the hallmarks of where people get their information from. You can just tell 10 seconds in their news source, like their keywords. It's all just like NPC Max, these kind of conversations. So anyway, I would challenge the idea that this place is some kind of right-wing traditionalist fantasy land. It's just simply not. Yes, it offers some resistance to the last 10 years, quite a bit of resistance, but it's still getting in anyway because of Instagram, YouTube. Although the government here has really put the foot down with NGOs, and NGOs are a great way of the engineers of this ideology and agenda to really push their agenda in a very quote-unquote innocent and less obvious ways, as if somehow an organisation that's not government is somehow independent and whatever. I mean, it's like bullshit, obviously. So not having them here definitely helps a lot in terms of resisting that. So yeah, tell me your thoughts. I'd like to hear them, because as I say, you do get people kind of default, that saying default Democrat, because the media does tend to lean towards Democrats or that kind of leftist globalist view on average. You can access the opposition, but it's just a bit harder, quite a bit harder on average. So you do get those default Democrats here from an American point of view, but then you do get some pretty hard right guys, quite a lot from various countries. The US obviously, but not only. Europeans, a lot of Europeans dreaming that this is the last true European country, but mate, look around the streets. I'll tell you what, they're changing fast. They're changing fast, man. Even from a genetic point of view, like, let alone a cultural point of view. Again, this place was more feminist and communist than the West will ever know in a lot of ways. So, give me your thoughts on this topic, and please some informed views would be really good. Because as I say, I think there's a lot of delusion, and once you have that delusion, you don't want to let go of it, right? Who wants to have that dissonance, that cognitive dissonance? Fucking I don't. Geez, if I was really committed to one political side, I'd want to believe that, if I was a lefty and I wanted to move to wherever lefties move, Seattle or something, I'd want to believe that that's, the only safe place in the world for me, and, Nazis are taking over the world and so forth. And if I was kind of hard right kind of dude and I was moving to prep and live on a farm in Belarus, I'd be wanting to believe that this is the safe place of Europe, So I understand people want to have this consistency in their thinking. Otherwise, what do you think? We're very black and white. I mean, this is what you can take from a lot of the politics of the last decade or so. The human mind is very black and white. We want one or the other. Extreme. So yeah, give me your thoughts below on politics and what I've been discussing today. It was just a kind of off-the-fly topic, because I've heard a few people just in the last week or so, as I've seen some more foreigners recently, just say these kind of things, and it's like, mate, I don't really think you quite know what you're talking about. Because, the front man here in Belarus, man, he's a good talker, this guy. He knows how to say the right things. And yeah, there is an element of family values definitely being taught in schools. Not much. Definitely a lot of advertising programs, but you might have on a billboard, for example, here, don't abort me, and having a fetus. Choose life, choose me, choose family. But given how, quite frankly, matriarchal the family structure is here, and I don't use that word lightly, it's not leaning matriarchal, it's pretty hard matriarchal here in terms of family structure, power structure within a family, and dating. Given how much it is like that, I mean, you can't kind of pretend that it's some traditional family thing, which is what they're kind of trying to push, trying to pretend that 1960 Stalinism is somehow traditional. It's only traditional for 1960 Stalinism, right? It's not traditional for anything else. It's nothing European in a meaningful way. And when I say that, I mean Christianity has a moralistic and idealistic base of European culture, mainly. Still is, well, to varying degrees, is still there. Obviously watered down significantly, of course. But nonetheless, a lot of that core stuff is there in a diluted form. So, yeah, feel free to yell out. Because as I say, the president's a pretty smooth talker, man. Sorry about that, just cut out for a second. God knows where it stopped. That'll do me. Yeah, leave your comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this issue. Just trying to get a realistic perspective. Let's be grown-ups. Let's get out of the meme wars and just discuss this stuff as mature adults. All right. Всем до свидания.